Hey there, everybody. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for clicking on the video. I hope if you like it, you'll subscribe. And thank you to anyone who's subscribed already. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you're having a good evening or morning or whatever's going on. Today, I wanted to talk about the new season of 90 Day Fiancé, Season 10, Episode 1, Dearly Beloved. Before we start, I just want to say that I'm real disappointed I didn't get to see the guy whose mom lives in his closet, and I saw so much of Jasmine. But I'm going to go ahead and just start off in the order I got them here. Ashley and Manuel. We start off, it's a girl. She's calling her friend because she's feeling a panic attack coming on. She's driving. She's freaking out. Her friend's trying to calm her, telling her to take deep breaths. And I'm just thinking, why isn't she pulled over? But before we get any answers, we skip back to 24 hours earlier. She's playing some Tibetan singing bowls, which those are very calming and they help cleanse energy and things like that. I love them. She says her name is Ashley. She's 32, from Rochester, New York. She likes to dance and learn, and she's a poet and a witch. And she does tarot and astrology and specializes in shadow work. So she also has the same tapestry that I have above my bed on her wall. So that's cool. Must be a witchy girl thing, right? They were showing her doing this thing where she was burning a bay leaf in the candle. And what she was doing there was that's how you make wishes to the universe. So you'd write a certain amount of money or love or, abundance on the bay leaf. And then you imagine yourself receiving whatever you wrote on there and you burn it. And then the universe, it'll either accept your request or deny it. Hopefully accept. So she says that society is still taught to fear the word witch because they think of ugly witches with crystal balls and throwing hexes, and that's just not her jam. And I don't think people are taught to fear that word. I think people don't believe it's real. Witches get put in the same category as ghosts and goblins and zombies. It's just a make-believe thing, because I would say people think of witches like Harry Potter and magic wands and, being able to say things and control things. And that's not what it is. It's using the universe and the law of attraction and all of this stuff for you to keep you connected to a higher vibration. Anyway, they show her helping someone ground and relax before she does a reading. And then she tells us that she's the crazy, rebellious one in her family. And at some point she began to dabble in the occult. And I wouldn't call witchcraft. Well, some people would call it the occult, I guess. I don't think of it that way. I think of occult as Satan. Things like that. That ain't me. But she did say her spirituality controls her life, as it should if that's the path you're taking. And that she had a dream in college that she was working with the earth somehow. Mm-hmm. And then she talked to their biology, and they were going over to work in the rainforest in Ecuador. And she signed her up. And that's where she met her fiance, Manuel. He's 35, and he works in construction. He's obviously from Ecuador. She met him 10 years ago on New Year's Eve. He asked her to dance. She thought everything about him was beautiful, and they were inseparable after that. And they got engaged after a week. She says it was passion and getting caught up in the moment and, being young and in love. She came home, the long distance thing didn't work out, and that was that, I guess. They show her going to a metaphysical crystal type shop. I want to go to all these shops. She says that they spent about 7 years apart She had gotten out of a long-term relationship, and he contacted her within a week of that. She says that he's kind of an F-boy, but he was more of an F-boy in his 20s, so that makes it okay. And he was always like her what-if man. So she decided to go see him again. And when she visited, they got an Airbnb, they quarantined together. And she was sitting there, and he took out a box, and they got re-engaged. So she's back at the shop telling her that she needs to do protection work since he's traveling from so far away. And she said at first he didn't want to come to America, but then they decided he could get construction work here easily. So they applied for the K-1 and they got it, and he'll be here tomorrow. And this is why she was probably panicking earlier. She's nervous about him coming here and being around her witchy practice. And, he would prefer her to be a Catholic woman. And she's also worried because he's never been on a plane or out of the country. And he has a few connecting flights and, he doesn't speak English. And his visa expires tomorrow. So if he doesn't make it, she's not sure what's next. Later, they show her at the bar meeting her friends. She tells us, she's a mix of emotions for Manuel coming. She's been waiting so long and it's just scary. She's meeting up her friends for some double vodka with water and lemon and lime juice to calm her down. Chamomile tea also works, but whatever. She said her friends knew that she had an ex-fiancé that was always in the background of her life, but they didn't take her seriously about the wedding until she came back from Ecuador the third time. Even after they filed for the K-1, they just thought that this was one of her things. And she tells them, she's nervous, excited, anxious, all of that. And he had his first flight, and he thought the plane was going to fall out of the sky. Excuse me. Her friend asked, did he tell his mom that he made it somewhere? And she said, yeah, he made it. And, he told his mom he's there for work because in Ecuador, the men work construction and they'll travel to different cities there and work for months, maybe even a year. And he could say he was there for a while and not tell his mom. The producers ask her, why he hasn't told his mom that he's coming to America to live with his fiancé. And she's like, that's a Manuel question. She has attitude. She says it's easier for him to tell her when he's here, so she isn't worried about him traveling so far. But she does think that he leaves things out to not hurt people. And that worries her because what is he not telling her? Her friends, they ask her the same thing, but they also add, well, do you think he's coming here to get away from, his life there? And she says, she's thought that too, that he's running away from the burdens that he has there. So then after that, they all have a cheers to that and him and her and all the witchy stuff he doesn't know about. So she's hiding things and so is he. So that should be great. She says that he knows she does tarot and astrology, but not about the spells. And jokingly, one of her friends starts talking about sacrifice. She doesn't do that. Nobody does that, I hope. She says she remembers telling him that she had to go work with the moon, and she would call him back. And then when she called back, he was asking, what she meant by that. And they ask if, witchiness and bruja stuff is, cool in Ecuador. And she's like, no, it's not a thing. God is a thing in Ecuador, and they're very Catholic. And then she tells us, being a modern day witch to her means working with the elements and intuition and with spell work, affirmation, and all that stuff. But that being said, it's very foreign to Manuel. And, those things are negative in his culture. But, it's who she is, it's her lifestyle, so she hopes that he's supportive and it doesn't weird him out. And the right person wouldn't be weirded out by it. My boyfriend, he doesn't necessarily believe all the things, believe in it, all the things that I do, but he encourages it and he respects it, And I've sent him little spell candles I've made for him, and he thinks they're awesome. And, he believes in more sciencey type stuff. I'm more spiritual, but we respect each other's opinions. So hopefully that's what could happen here. But I don't think she would respect his Catholicism. And not only that, like, my ex was not supportive about any of that. Like, if I even mentioned zodiac, astrology, anything, he would tell me how stupid it was and just put it down and make me feel like I was so dumb. And it wasn't until like after he left that I could really find my spirituality and like the things that I could do to make myself feel better. And that's what it's really about. And that's the difference in like someone you should be with and someone you shouldn't. She she also says it's another thing to see her like working at her altar. And like from my understanding, you need to be alone to do spell work properly, or the other person has to be involved, actively involved, putting their energy into it. Like it's not something that you just sit and observe. But then she starts talking about how she's worried the first month might be hell. Apparently she has a pattern of making wrong decisions and realizing it. Like, well, yeah, that's called a lesson. But then when that happens, she backpedals, backtracks, and acts like it didn't happen. And that is not how shadow work works. Shadow work requires you to feel the emotions, work through them, heal them, and not pretend that they never happened. So maybe she's not practicing what she preaches. I don't know. Her friends, they tell us they're worried about the white lies blowing up into something detrimental to the relationship. So, he's worried, the friend is worried he will get here and things will change and, his friend will end up heartbroken. They ask her what happens if it doesn't go the way she hopes. Will she cut it off? And she says, if it doesn't go how she sees fit, she is prepared to leave. I want to know what's up with all these half-ass witchy girls. Like first there was Ella, and then Kim, and now this lady. Like none of them seem to actually practice what they're talking about. So next time we see her, and she's telling us she isn't sure if he made his connecting flight from Miami to Rochester. She hasn't heard anything. She's worried he's stuck in customs. He hasn't opened her messages. Her sister shows up. She updates her on the situation. And she does the right thing and tells her, something's always going wrong with this. And maybe that's the universe telling you that this isn't right. And she's like, yeah, I do believe in signs. But I don't know if this is one. Like, okay. It's like I've seen this meme where it's like, the universe sending you all these signs like angel numbers, coins, feathers, whatever it is, right? Tarot readings. And like someone's like, I don't know, could you send me a more signier sign? That's what's happening here. The sister tells us, she's the more cautious sister and Ashley's more spontaneous. She dives right in there. And she's worried that maybe this guy has bad intentions, or maybe both of them will end up not wanting this. And then Ashley's nervous because the visa expires tomorrow, and if he gets sent back, then what? So she decides she's going to the airport. She's sticking to the plan, trying not to freak out. That doesn't work so well. She freaks out before she makes it to the airport. She has a panic attack. She calls her sister. And I do that too. When I'm having a panic attack, I call my sister and she tells me to breathe. So glad I'm not the only one. But she's lightheaded and freaking out and hyperventilating. And I don't know why she's still driving. And hopefully we begin the next episode with her safely pulling over, because that's not cool. It's dangerous. Okay, guys, let's get this over with. Gino and Jasmine. All her friends are picking her up on a party bus for like a bachelorette party. Why she's wearing like a beige suit jacket for this, I'll never know. But she tells us she's moving in a few days to go be with Gino. She is sad that her friends won't be able to go to her wedding, so why not have a party? And, all I can think is like, what nasty things am I about to see now? And we start off with a Gino look-alike blow-up, doll. But it wasn't shaped like a man. It was shaped like men parts with a hat. And then she tells us that they met 3 years ago, as if we don't know, as if we didn't just see them for a whole season. But I guess some people maybe haven't, those lucky ducks. And she said that he was nerdy. She thought he was cute. She doesn't like traditionally good-looking men because she's so jealous. I'm like, well, Dane is good-looking. Sure, her ex-husband was good-looking. She says when she saw Gino, he had belly fat, flamingo legs, a sharky nose, and non-existent lips. And I guess that's her thing, because she likes that about him. Then she tells us, they applied for the K1 forever ago. And when she went for the interview, it got rescheduled. But she got a second chance, and it only took her 10 minutes, and then she got visa approval. And, it was because she flirted with the guy or because she's pretty. Who could say no to her? And now she's free to marry Gino and be with him 24/7. We scoot on over to Gino. It's his last day of work. He's been an automotive engineer for 30 years, and he told his boss he needs a leave of absence. And he probably won't go back for a year so he can make Jasmine a priority, which is what she wants, and get her set up with like a license and a social security number and all that stuff. And he tells us their relationship is like a roller coaster, up and down, all day, every day. He's like, we fight about my past exes, the food he eats, his family, finances, unnecessary cosmetic procedures. She doesn't like all the pop he drinks. He doesn't like her talking about her exes. But they keep coming back together, guys. For the strong bond and connection that they have. They'll always come back together. Then back on Party Bus Central, they're like mooning people. They get to the bar. They bring blow up Gino with them. Jasmine asked for her like pillow to sit on. And she said that she lost a lot of weight and that took away the little booty that she has with it. And she was worried because Gino liked her butt. So she got butt implants and now she's got the perfect peach booty. Her friends are like, the things you do for Gino's pleasure. And she's like, he doesn't even know I did it. He gave her money for a wedding dress, but she didn't buy the dress. And are we surprised? Because he's just going to go ahead and buy her another dress. Not even another dress. He's going to give her money to buy a dress when she's there. He should have just waited for that. Just like the engagement ring. She says that she wishes he was more appreciative of the effort that she puts into being pretty. Her hair, her nails, her laser hair removal. But he doesn't like spending money. So she was forced to spend her dress money on booty implants. Makes perfect sense. They ask how they think, he'll react when he finds out. And she's like, well, what can he do? I already spent the money. He can't take it out. Haha. So back in Michigan, Gino's working out on a treadmill in like a button-up long sleeve shirt and jeans. And there's a lady there. And I'm like, uh-oh, he's with a lady. And he says that he pays Jasmine's rent, her bills, because she lost her job. And he thinks that doing that, she's become spoiled. And reality is going to hit her when she gets there. Then we find out he's trying out the treadmill and he's like testing it out. And he's asking her dumb things like, what's the mileage on the treadmill? She's like, bro, it's a few years old. Like, no one checks mileage. But she wants $200 for it. He's not trying to spend that. So he wasted the woman's time and he was filming in her space for no reason. Like, why? Why did we need this? He says he wants to give Jasmine everything she wants and that he doesn't think spending $200 on a treadmill is a good idea because he's not working. And he doesn't know how she's going to react to that because She loves money and the luxury life, and if he has no income, she's going to kill him. So what I want to know, not really, but I'm asking the question, how did he not know about having a whole ass surgery? How did he not know about her going out on a Valentine's Day date? Like, do they not talk every day? Did he not speak to her for like a week while she was recovering from major surgery? I'm not buying that. Like, there's no way I could have a whole surgery and my boyfriend just not know. But whatever. Later we see her packing. She's like, 5 years ago, if you told me I would be leaving Panama willingly, I would have said you were crazy. But, here I am. Her mom, her sister, and her son arrive. And this is the first time we see one of her kids. And he is adorable. He looks like about 10 to me. I'm not sure how old he is. She says she has 2 sons, JC and Quancy. And Quancy is the eldest. She says she has a deep connection with him and she's a cool mom. They eat ice cream and stuff he can't have with his dad. And it's just hard for her to say bye to that. She said she didn't have Gino meet her kids until like a year after they met and after they got serious. And even though that they speak different languages, they bonded and they had a good time. And it made her happy, and she'll always keep that in her heart. The mom is bringing up her booty pillow and asking her why she does all these things to feel secure with Gino. So the mom blames him, right? But he doesn't even know about the surgery. And then Jasmine's like, I did it because she likes it and she feels pretty. So at least she said that. Mom's like, how's the relationship going? And she says that they have fights sometimes. Like, she still feels he puts her aside for his family. She says that his sister-in-law messaged her recently. And the mom's like, well, what you gonna do about it? I guess she's gonna tell Gino that she's not gonna be there to please his family. She tells us the sister-in-law sent her a rude message asking her not to have her wedding on certain days because she was going on vacation. And I'm like, well, she was rude because she wants to make sure they can attend your wedding. She's like, it's not the message, it's how she sent it. They show the message and it's like, don't get married April 13th through the 24th because we'll be in Florida, 2 exclamation marks. Jasmine said, they don't have a date set because of the visa. But, like, thanks for letting her know and they'll plan accordingly. She says that it felt bossy. She never said hi to her. And I guess that's true, She wasn't like, hey, Jasmine. She said it looks to her like an order more than a I can talk, I promise. Rather than a polite request or suggestion. And I'm like, yeah, like my sensitive self would have felt that way too. Jasmine turns it up a notch. It makes her feel unloved and unwanted by his family. And, they want to be at the wedding though. So what, that's the whole point. Then she switches gears. She tells her mom that she needs to tell her son she's leaving because he doesn't know. She has told him about the visa before, but not that it's done and that she's leaving. So tonight's the night. She says, her kids have a comfortable life in Panama, and her and Gino also plan to bring them to the U.S. ASAP. She claims her ex-husband is okay with it, but she hasn't discussed with her son the specifics about the K-1 because she knew that there was a chance she wouldn't be approved, but now she needs to tell him because she's moving. She's not sure how he's going to react. She starts telling him, remember I said I was moving with Papa Gino. And, you're going to stay here with your dad and your aunt and your grandma until I figure out a house and a place for us to live. And, that was the plan, remember? She said that her son really wants to move to America. She tells him she got the visa and she's going to go marry Gino and is leaving in a couple days. he tells us that he likes spending time with her and he's going to miss her. He'll miss seeing her smile the most. And I'm like, oh my God, she's leaving this little angel boy for Gino. She asks how he feels. He says good. She's tearing up. She's like, I have to leave for a while. She says it doesn't make you sad. And she's crying. And he says no. And I'm like, I don't think he sees her a lot. She says, what, you want me to leave? And he's like, why do you look sad? She tells him that she isn't sad. She's crying because she's happy and proud of him. And I've done the old crying and told my kid it's because I was so happy to have him. Mom hack. But this breaks my heart. Like, I could literally never do this. I could never leave my little boy. Any of my kids. But they hug it out. She says it's going to be hard for her to be away. Because as a mom, she's like 100% involved in their lives. But she knows that this is for them and they'll be together again one day. And she's just losing sleep, thinking about not being with them. Then later when we see her again, she's taking Coco, her dog, to the doggy spa. And it's her last time there because she's taking her to the U.S. Dogs don't need a visa to come over, so yay. Gino calls her. She's like, look at Coco. Say hi. Say bye to the dog. Okay, we're going to go shop. So the dog has everything that it needs. And Gino's like, have you potty trained him? Like, can he go on the mat or is he still peeing everywhere? Is he peeing all over the place? And not in the way Gino prefers. So Jasmine starts getting defensive and says, the dog doesn't do it on purpose. He has anxiety. Gino's like, are you okay? Like, how are you feeling? And she's like, no, I can't pretend I'm happy. As if she's ever pretending to be happy a day in her life. He asks her what's wrong. She tells him about the sister-in-law texting her about how she can't have her wedding. Blah, blah, blah. Because of her lovely vacation. Like, and she didn't say hi or nothing. And then we get like Gino's side. And he's like, she didn't mean anything bad. It was a quick message. Because she was talking to him saying, oh no, please don't have the wedding these days. Jasmine's like, it's about having manners. And again, he doesn't like how she talks about his family like they're enemies. She says Gino's always blaming her for not getting along with his family or being open-minded to them. And he's always biased and will never take her side even if she's right. They flash back to the she's equally as important as his family fight. And she says whatever she does, she's the bad guy when it comes to him and his family. Or her and his family. She tells him all of her family treats Gino with love and respect when he comes there. And, she hasn't even gotten to the U.S. yet and she's already getting orders. He tells her that she's always saying that the sister-in-law was only saying, like, we'll be gone these days, so please don't have the wedding then. And he agrees with it. He said it's a simple request. It's not a big deal. Try to have some compassion. And she's like, I'm the one who needs compassion. And she has that crazy look in her eye. And she says they need to have compassion for her, leaving her whole life to be with him. So she's going to get married when she wants, which means she's going to pick one of those days out of spite. He says he doesn't care. He's going to do what he has to make sure his brother and sister-in-law will be there. And that's just the way it is. She calls him a jerk. The dog groomer lady's looking at her like she's nuts. And he says, that's it. I'm done talking about the wedding stuff. And she's like, okay, we'll talk later. Say hi to your lovely family. She says, I have the message here. I'm not making it up. She was rude. And now she has to have compassion for her vacation and move her wedding. And it's like, well, damn, Jasmine, the wedding isn't planned yet. You don't have a date picked. You waited months, 2 years for a visa. So no one could plan a little vacay until you got approved for a visa. Like, it's not her world. She's sitting there. She's ugly crying again about how she's leaving everything. She has no friends, no family there. And he wants her to leave her dog too. And it's like, well, the dog is peeing all over, lady. Like, train the dog. He has anxiety. Like, so do I. I don't pee. Okay, guys. Next up, we meet Sophie. She's 23. She's from London. She's a pretty girl, so of course she does fashion and modeling and content creating. And so she doesn't have to stay in one place. She can go anywhere she wants. And she gets free clothes. So they show clips of her being like a party girl. She says she was clubbing at 12, and that probably seems crazy in America, but in Europe, if you look old enough, they don't care. And her family's really wealthy. Her granddad is hardworking, and she doesn't know what he does, just that he's rich. So either what he does is illegal, or she's too self-centered to care. She lived in nice houses. She went to private school. She traveled. But despite all that, she had tough experiences. She says she's mixed race. Her dad is black. Her mom is white. But she was raised in Spain where there was no black people. And she was the only mixed kid. And she was bullied and didn't have friends. But she's grateful for the experience because it made her who she is today and led her to the love of her life, Rob. Before she met him, she was just on social media following all the cute mixed guys because that's what she's into. And she only added Rob because she thought he was cute. Then we meet him. He's 32. He's from Los Angeles. And I was so confused because they started with her. And usually it's always like they start with the American person. So it threw me off. I was like, is she from London and lives here? Like, what's going on? Anyway, he's from LA. I'm not sure I like the way they did that. He says he cares about looks the most. Personality is all right, but looks is where it's at for him. And I'm just like, what is with these superficial couples lately? He's like, people can get mad all they want, but he's hot. He wanted a hot girl, and she's the hottest girl he's been with. And that's what he's been looking for. I'm like, this sounds like Chad from Match Me Abroad. He says he's a jack of all trades, and of course he's a model. So women would reach out to him, and he usually ignored them. But then Sophie followed him. He couldn't believe she was real. He told her if he had a girl like her, he would stop looking. And he shot his shot, made the shot. She tells us he's smooth, and he was smooth. He said all the right things. She said that she entertained it a bit, and after the first day, he FaceTimed her. She felt it was bold, and she didn't know if that's an American thing. I'm like, well, that's a I don't want to be catfished thing. When she answered, she's like, why are you calling me? And he said, to make sure she was real. She thought it was weird yet confident, and they started FaceTiming, and they were on there for 8 hours, and they talked the whole time without silence. And even though they were raised on different sides of the world, and she was raised in a nice area, and he was raised in a rough one, they had similar experiences with bullying. They talked for 6 months, and then she came there and went from never meeting to living together for 2 months. She hadn't seen his whole body, just like his head on FaceTime. So when she saw him, she thought he had a little pea head on that was stuck to someone else's body. But they felt that in 2 months they got comfortable with each other. She said that she just so happened to hear about the K1 before and put the idea in his head that it's a solution. So she was basically proposing to him. He agreed. He says that it's different dating someone with a different background who's lived in really nice places. She didn't have to pay rent, and she's had maids. And he thinks it's hard for them. That makes it hard for them to relate. And like it's far from like the way the real world operates. Because she has spoiled rich girl tendencies. And he's going to have to bring her down to earth. He says it won't be easy, and like being with him isn't going to be a cakewalk. He feels if he feels like the marriage isn't going to work, he doesn't want to do that to either of them. And I'm like, oh, they're going to be really toxic. I can feel it. Later, we catch back up with them, with Rob. He's walking his best friend, his dog, Rome. He's had him for 10 years. And he lives on Inglewood. I don't know, in or on. And he says that there's some nice spots. But there's worst part that people probably saw on the news in the 90s. And he says it's a really loud street. And not somewhere Sophie should be roaming at night. And he says she's seen his place because when she came to LA for the first time, they stayed there. And she would prefer him not to live there, but that's not how the cookie crumbled, you know? He's living in a studio apartment. We see him mopping. Earlier we saw him putting out roach traps. He says it's not the nicest, but it has everything he needs, except a bathroom, because you have to walk across the courtyard to get to the bathroom. And I'm like, what in the 1867 is going on here? Like, the community toilet would scare me. But it doesn't bother him as much. He says something about he used to live in Oregon, so walking across to the bathroom is a lot better than walking 40 yards to be out of sight. And he says he knows it's not the ideal place to bring a princess to live, but it'll be part of their story, and one day they could tell it to their kids, how he brought their mom to LA straight to the hood, and they can have a good laugh. But, you know, at least he's trying to clean the place. Over the pond, Sophie's packing up. She doesn't know how her things are going to fit in his small space. She describes it as like a big room, and the bathroom's like an outhouse. And I got to agree about the bathroom. It would scare me a lot. So she says she holds it in all night because she doesn't have to go. She holds it in all night so she doesn't have to go to the bathroom. And one time she was showering there and there was a raccoon on the roof. And then it dawned on me that they don't just have to go over there to use the toilet. That's where they shower too. Yikes. So then she video calls her mom. She says she has no siblings, so her and her mom are close and more like sisters. And when she was 16, she moved to England, and then her mom followed her. And then she moved to Mexico, and her mom stayed there with her too. And she's saying, knowing her mom, she'll probably move to America. But Rob doesn't like that because they don't like each other. But she says they're going to have to learn to get along. First thing mom says is, how's Rob the knob doing? And she's like, whoa, come on now, I'm marrying him. Mom's like, it's true. She thinks he's stupid and grumpy and the epitome of a knob. Apparently that means like male genitalia or like a dickhead, I guess. I was thinking doorknob because when I was in middle school, high school, my friend's mom would be like, such a doorknob. So my brain never went there. Mom asks if she's nervous about the living situation, and she is. She knows it's not the best, but she's excited to see him, and she's going to think about the bad stuff when she gets there. And Mom says, talk is cheap, money buys houses. And Sophie's like, yeah, I'll get him to move at some point. I think Mom just wants her to marry a rich man. And the mom wishes she could call him and say, listen, you need to be doing this for my Sophie. She's like, Mom, don't scare him off. She's been waiting for this, and her mom can just mess it up after they get married, I guess. Because she tells her she can do whatever she wants after they get married. And then she says Rob does odd jobs here and there for work, and it's frustrating to her because she has tried to get him to move out of this place for months, and he had all this time to go get a good job and move. And she thinks he's a real man, that he just doesn't do some of the things real men do. So it's more serious for her than he realizes. Then we see him meeting with his friend at the studio. His friend's name is Tori. And it turns out he's practicing a routine to do for Sophie when she gets off the plane. I died laughing at this point. So his plan is he's going to get to the airport, and when she sees him, he's going to be like, stop. hammer time, and then bust a move. And then he's going to bust out the ring, and she'll be like, whoa, a dance and a Disney princess proposal. So he's got a whole vision for her. He shows us what he got so far, and he stands there with his hand on his chest for like 45 seconds. And he's like, that's all I got. I need your help with the next step. His friend's teasing him like, you're doing the Pledge of Allegiance for her? Like, this was the part in the show I laughed the most, actually. And he's like, that's all you got. You want to get married. You can't come up with a 20-second dance. And then his friend gets an interview, tells us he's met her a couple times before. He got iffy vibes from her. She seems nice, but she's young. And she's doing things that make him feel like she's not there for the right reasons and not there for Rob. And he brings up how the last time she was there, she was on Bumble looking like she's on the market. And he's like, she said she was on there to make friends in America. He says, she did the same thing in Mexico. And his friend is pointing out that that's a red flag. And again says she was on a dating app. Now they do have Bumble Friends, like where you can meet friends and people. But I don't think that's what he was talking about. I'm pretty sure it was a dating app. And then immediately when I'm thinking that, Rob's like, well, it has a friend side. And he's like, but she was on the dating side. I saw it. And he's like, well, maybe she clicked the wrong thing. Like, okay, make excuses, whatever. He tells him, like, if you're in an open relationship, just say that. He says that they aren't. They just came to an understanding about what happened. And his friend isn't buying it. I'm not either. She was like, no way I'm staying in this bedroom with an outhouse across the courtyard. She's probably still on dating apps where she lives. Like, this is just her fastest way to America and to be in LA. And that's why she doesn't care what her mom says to him after marriage. His friend is like, he seems like a tough guy on the outside, but deep down he's soft and he just can't admit when he's hurt. Then we hop over to Sophie and her friend Maya, and she said her friend met Rob before, and at first she liked him because he was such a gentleman, but he hasn't been that way lately. She says they had a rough patch during the pandemic, and that he started speaking to a girl online, so no wonder he doesn't care about the dating apps. And as soon as she told her friend, her friend's opinion changed. But she forgave him, so she hopes that her friend will. That's not how it works. She's not gonna. And she wants to get her opinion about her moving and getting married. Her friend is excited for her getting married and all of that. She tells her that she hasn't planned anything and she's gonna plan it when she gets there. Her friend's like, the first thing I think about is what you told me about him online. She's asking her how she feels about that now. She says it does cross her mind that he did that because they were both going through a hard time and she didn't go and do that. But it's not something she's going to let ruin her opportunity. Her relationship. Her friend tells us Sophie told her a girl messaged her and said, look what your boyfriend's doing, and showed her like sexy videos of him. And her friend doesn't think that's the only time. And she just hopes Sophie knows what she's doing. And I'm like, well, she's on dating apps. He's sending sexy videos. Match made in heaven, right? Like, what happened to real couples on this show? Like, couples that were fighting to be together and adapt to each other's cultures and life. And, like, this is just not good. Like, I'm so not interested. in just specifically these people right now. Sophie tells her that she thinks she knows everything she needs to know about him. They've talked every day for 2.5 years now, but there's something he doesn't know about her, right? She hasn't told anyone. Turns out that she's bi. Her friend is surprised, and Sophie's like, did you know that? Did you expect that about me? No, she didn't. She says she always knew she was attracted to women. Her first crush was a woman. But she put that aside because she's bi and not gay and it's easier to date men. But now she thinks she needs to explore this before she gets married. And at this point, I feel like they just pick two people out of a jar, make them a couple. They get another jar or hat with like different issues one could struggle with, pull a few out, and that's what the couples are assigned. And she got biracial and bisexual, and the other girl got witch and white lies, and Gino and Jasmine scooped up the rest of the jar. That's what happened. I know it. But then they talk about how she hasn't experimented, and maybe he would let her do that before they get married. I don't know, maybe if he was involved. We don't know if he's into that. I wouldn't be comfortable with it. And, they just have to make everything nasty. And I'm just like, they didn't have anyone from Morocco coming here or nothing. Like, this is what I gotta put up with. Dang. Alright, guys, thanks for sticking around this long. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. Especially let me know what you think of these new couples. I definitely want to hear that. Lastly, I'm going to talk about Nikki and Justin. So next up, we see another photo shoot with a pink thong latex type outfit. Yay! Her name is Nicole. She's from Hoboken, New Jersey. She's 47. She's a recording artist known as Nikki Erotica, and she created that to be her alter ego so she could be her and then come home and be normal. The difference between Nicole and Nikki is Nikki's kind of a diva and Nicole is a homebody. Then she goes home and we meet her cat Vicious. He's a cutie. She says she's also a hairstylist, makeup artist, and a beauty consultant. So anyone who wants advice on plastic surgery, she's the one to ask. She's done every procedure from head to toe. Nose, lips, jaw, cheeks, eye color change, breasts. She's like, you can't expect a woman to have all these curves naturally. And she does say a lot of people judge her about the way she looks, but she gets 80% positive feedback, so she doesn't care about the 20%. She had a really dark time in her life where she didn't love herself. Now she's happy, she loves herself, and she can invite love in now. She has a fiance named Justin. He's a personal trainer, and he's from Moldova. I'm not going to lie, you guys. It's going to be really hard for me to say Justin 5,000 times this season. Justin is the name of my no good, dirty, rotten pig stealing baby daddy. And for a lot of years, anytime I would say the name Justin or I had to, I would go, puh, Justin, puh. It's really hard not to do that. Puh. So, yay for me. Yikes. Hopefully I could come up with some kind of nickname, right? So, she said she typically goes for everything that Justin is. Tall, hot, hung, funny, and sweet. She tells us the long story of how they met. Meanwhile, they're like strapping on some more like pink latex accessories to her costume. And she tells us that 17 years ago, she wasn't with or in love with him. She was in love with a Russian guy, but he ended up deported for being a criminal. So she went to where he got deported, to Moldova, to see him. She didn't tell him she was coming. She just showed up, opened the door. He was cold with her. Turns out he's living with another girl over there. I mean, he was exiled, so of course he was. She was shocked. She felt played. So she went on a dating site there and she met Justin. His actual name is Igor. But she didn't like it. It reminds her of Frankenstein's assistant. So she renamed him. Like, why? Why did you do that? Like, could I call him Igor this whole season? Ugh. So she said she renamed him. She thought he looked like Justin Timberlake 17 years ago. And he loved the name, and they spent the rest of the trip together. He didn't try to sleep with her on the first date. He just kissed her on the forehead, and that made her fall for him. On her fourth trip, he proposed to her in a park. It was romantic. The birds were singing and chirping and everything. And their first K1 visa was approved. They tried to give it a chance, but 2 weeks after he came here, they had a lot of issues that couldn't be worked out. Her hairstylist, Javier Ninja, is talking to her saying, so you're basically going there to see if this is like the man for you. And I'm like, wait a minute, isn't he supposed to come here? Like, He asked her what happened the first time because he never got the whole story. She says he was lazy, he didn't help with housework, he didn't cook, he didn't clean, he didn't work. Well, he couldn't work. She did everything. They got into a lot of fights and she was mad and she's like, I have a secret to tell you, that she used to be a man. I had no idea. And he freaked out. And she tells us she was 20 when she had the operation. And I'm like, dang, she really has had all the procedures, I guess. She said the first thing she did when she was woke up was felt around down there. And she's like, oh my God, I did it. And she was a woman and she just cried and she felt reborn. And I think that's beautiful. But back then she lived in stealth and not telling people about it. She was very closeted. She didn't have like gay or trans friends. And she didn't tell him for 2 years and then blurted it out. And obviously he was shocked. He was like, how could you lie to me and do this? And she says she traumatized him and then he went home. And he was depressed for a long time and she felt bad. The last time they were together was 2007. By the way, like, I do think she should have told him before he moved here to marry her. I think it's like a gray area as far as like, maybe you should tell him before you're intimate. Maybe you should tell him, when you're going to get married. I don't know. I don't know what's proper in that scenario. I feel like she waited too long. But the last time they were together was 2007, which is 15 years ago for those of us who don't enjoy math. And now they're together again. She says that they kept in contact through the years, but they both had things to get through and go through on their own. But years ago, they got into a conversation. They were both single, and she said that they should give it another chance. He told her she was crazy. She's like, well, don't you need a little crazy in your life? 3 months after they were speaking again, she booked them a trip to Mexico to reconnect. And he told her she's the love of his life and proposed to her. And they applied for the K-1 again. She tells her friend that she has some concerns, so before the visa gets approved, they have things to work on. She says originally when she kept making advances to go to Moldova, he kept saying no. Apparently trans people aren't accepted there. And she's not even sure if gay people are. But this is the last time they can apply for the visa because you can only apply twice. So when they go to Moldova, she needs to know it'll work because there isn't a third chance here. She also says that it's very rare to find a straight man to date a trans woman, especially publicly. And then she says she thinks she's getting old and this is her last chance at love. So then she video calls her man up and he likes what he sees and tells her, she's like, I know you like it when I'm all natural. And I'm really going to try not to be mean right now, but nothing about her is natural. And why does he look 25 and he just doesn't age, I guess. He tells her when she comes there that he wants her to do her makeup more natural. I'm curious to see if he acts similar to Andre from like Andre and Libby, because he's pretty controlling. She tells us she thinks he's nervous about people looking at her because he's still trying to get over his insecurities and he thinks people will be able to tell she's trans. She asks how his mom is feeling about meeting her and he says she's excited. And she's like, really, after knowing everything she knows now, she wants to meet me again. And she does. He says she respects his choice and supports him. And if he says that's my woman, his mom will support him. She says the first time she met his mom, she loved her and she loved them together. But now she knows she's trans and she has hang-ups and she's scared. And she just hopes that his family will accept them together. And he's like, don't break my penis. And she's like, oh, I'm gonna. He tells her when she's there, they're going to be lovemaking all the time. And she's like, oh, really? That's interesting. She said last time they saw each other, they only did it like 4.5 times. I'm like, hey, that's better than Gino and Jasmine. He says that's normal for someone who's 35. I'm like, okay, so they were together 17 years ago. They broke up 15 years ago. I pulled out my calculator, even though I hate the math. He was 18 and she was 30. That's why he looks so young. I'm getting it now. It's coming together. Yikes. So she says 4 times in 2 weeks is like an 80-year-old man waiting for a casket. I'm like, what? She is ridiculous. She says 15 years ago they had a lot of sexy time, and now she's wondering what changed in 15 years. Like, he doesn't get in there like he used to, I guess, to like pleasure her. And she knows the trans thing is different to get used to. But they're engaged, and he isn't 100% connecting to her in the bedroom. And she says if he's going to accept her, then do it. But if he can't, he can kick rocks. And I just can't wait for her to meet Jasmine at the tell-all, so she can find out that 4 times in 2 weeks is a luxury, and she should be grateful. I'm not saying like he doesn't have hang-ups about it, but that's not that bad. 4 times. Also, I would like to say that there's a preview where she's at a restaurant. She's like, I think those people made out that I'm trans or whatever. And I'm just thinking, like, nobody thinks that. They're looking at all your plastic surgery. Like, I was just honestly surprised that she was trans, because you can't tell. Like, she's had so much work done. That's what people are focusing on, lady. I'm pretty sure. Let me know what you guys thought. Like, did you know right away that she was maybe trans? Because I didn't. Like, not while I was watching and not looking at her. And that's not the point. But I'm saying, like, I don't think people are staring at her in public because they think she's a boy or trans. I think they're staring at her because she has a lot of plastic surgery. Anyways, that is episode 1 of season 10. Looks like we got some more interesting, funner couples coming up. So I'm hoping maybe some of these don't make it long. That would be great. Watch, I'm going to love them the most. Actually, this last couple, they're interesting at least. And I think she is interesting. And she probably has a lot of good stories and things. But the other couple, Rob and Sophie, I could do without them. Gino and Jasmine, That Ashley girl and Manuel, I'm on the fence about. I probably missed one else, I don't know. But I hope you guys have a great night, and thank you for sticking around. And make sure to subscribe and like, and let me know what you guys thought of these new couples. I'm excited to go on this journey with everyone. And don't forget to take deep breaths. And I will see you next time for my Other Way recap coming up soon. All right, have a good night, guys. Bye.